not 100% the accepted gender terminology anymore, but like, you know, I was brought up from a very young age of just like love is love, and you like what you like, and it makes it no better or worse. No one is better or worse than another, and just the terminology. I choose to live my life as a gay man. Like, dude, there's so many layers of how you are a fucked up individual, Kevin Spacey. You'll never hear this. I don't give a fuck. I need to say it. There are so many layers of you being a fucked up individual where I just like I don't know how somebody like that can look at themselves in the mirror. And that's enough of the heavy shit for now. Like, sorry, I had to get that off of the chest, and it's off now. Let's get into silly shit. Let's get into just what this show is about, which is loosely defined, but it's not railing against just gross men all the time. Sometimes, but not all the time. All right, I want to talk about Lio Rush. Those of you who aren't in the know, Lio Rush is a professional wrestler who wrestles in WWE sort of feeder league, their sort of minor league, their in-house training league, I guess, if you want to call it, NXT. He's a young guy. I think he's 22. He's really, really talented. He's one of the guys who made a real big splash on sort of the independent level before he got signed by the WWE. And a lot of people were really, really excited about his getting onto the WWE roster. And he is really talented, like I should say that. Sort of around last week, WWE did something that they do on a semi-regular basis where, they have a big roster and they'll just occasionally let go of some people that they aren't using. And it's a shame because, I mean, WWE really is the big game in town if you're a professional wrestler. So three talents got let go. Summer Rae, who was sort of more of an outside of the ring personality. She did do some wrestling, but she was more of a manager, valet type. Darren Young, who was sort of notable for being, I think, quite possibly the only out gay wrestler that the WWE has ever employed. There's been some wrestlers who have come out as being gay or bisexual after their employment with the WWE, but Darren Young quite famously came out while he was in the WWE to TMZ cameraman. It kind of came out of nowhere, and he got a lot of really great support for it. But his career was always sort of spinning its wheels, and he had a bit of a ceiling. Talented enough guy, but he was never getting the push to sort of the upper card. And then finally, Australian wrestler Emma. So Emma had a match at the most recent pay-per-view against a debuting Japanese wrestler by the name of Asuka. And Asuka's whole deal is like she is completely undefeated in the WWE. She was in NXT, and then she moved up to the main roster undefeated, and now she's on the main roster. And her debut 2 matches were against Emma. And then shortly afterwards, Emma got released. Don't know the circumstances as to why or what the situation was, but it is a shame that she lost her job, and she's a really talented girl. She trained up in Calgary with Lance Storm. Anyhow, Lio Rush, new guy on the block. Imagine doing this in a new job, finding out that another high profile, you're in a high profile job, and then somebody loses their job, and then you tweet out, I guess these things are the things that happen when you're truly not ready for Asuka. Yikes, dude. Anyhow, he's since deleted that tweet because obviously, and what ended up happening was a litany of other wrestlers and entertainers who are wrestling fans took to Twitter and tore this guy to shreds. Just telling him to show some respect, saying, "You've been here for 5 minutes. What's the matter with you?" Telling him that essentially you are mocking somebody for losing their job. Who do you think you are? And then Lio Rush gives the worst non-apology that I think I've ever read. And it's not just the content of the apology itself, it's the appalling grammar. At the end of the day, there's a certain level of respect within professional wrestlers in the sports and entertainment industry that is noted within peers. I mean, the first sentence alone, guys. With that being said, Emma, I respect you and everything you've done for our business. It saddens me that the, quote, controversial tweet, end quote, got completely blown out of proportion and looked at in a very insensitive way. As a family man with a 4-year-old son, and expecting another, I would never laugh or mock the fact of someone losing their job because of how it can affect self-person and their families. I should say that losing was spelt loosing, and there was a direction, not a possessive. Whatever the situation may be regarding the release, you're an amazing performer and a respected athlete by yours truly, and I'm sure you will excel beyond expectations. To my fans who may have seen this as an inappropriate, as well as Emma's fans, I apologize, and I love you all regardless of the responses. So basically, I'm sorry that you didn't like my joke. Not that I'm sorry I made a shitty joke. I'm really curious to see, basically the way the WWE shoots NXT television is they do a block of them for basically like a month or two's worth of television. I'm curious to see what kind of response he gets now, because oof. And like the NXT crowd, it's shot at Full Sail University in Orlando. It's a small sort of soundstage crowd. I think it fits a couple hundred people, or maybe as many 500. I'm not sure. But they're a crowd. They're the sort of crowd that's going to know about this whole firestorm, and are going to remind him about it. So I'm curious to see what happens. You know what, guys? I almost forgot to talk about this, and I would have been so upset with myself had I not mentioned this. Generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of remakes of classic films, but just recently they released the cast for the remake of The Lion King, and I'm telling you, Disney is knocking this one out of the park. I don't know, you've probably seen this already, but I just need a moment to just geek out about like Donald Glover as Simba, Beyonce as Nala, like James Earl Jones back as Mufasa, because if James Earl Jones is around and available, who are you going to cast as Mufasa anyhow? Like John Oliver as Zazu, Seth Rogen as Pumbaa. Like, guys, I'm losing. Keegan-Michael Key is in this. Eric Andre is in this, guys. Guys, I'm so excited. July 19th, 2019, man. I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. Freaking Childish Gambino is Simba. Like, that just, like, the only downside is, like, I don't see Danny Pudi in this movie, which, like, can we not have Danny Pudi in this movie somehow interacting with Simba? Like, anyhow, just, this is very, very exciting to me, and I just can't wait. I loved that movie as a kid. It was one of the ones that we definitely had on VHS, and like, I'm not like the biggest Disney guy in the world. Like I look at, like, you know, like my girlfriend, she is big into Disney movies and she's big into musicals and stuff like that, but like, I mean, this is enough to make me sit up and take notice. Like just I'm like at the start of the show all over again. I don't have words, and that's problematic for a podcast. I'm just gonna move on. Just want to take a little bit of a left turn here tonally. Talk for just a second about this coming Saturday, which here in Canada is Remembrance Day. I know elsewhere in the world other similar holidays are observed. I hope that you do take a moment on Saturday to observe the moment of silence at 11:11 in recognition of those who have served in the worst hell I don't want to get too preachy here, and I'm not going to talk about the legitimacy of war or anything like that. What I can say is that no one ever asks really to go to war in a modern context. They ask to serve their nation. They ask to protect their country. And, the call to remembrance at the downing of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. I just hope that that's more than something that we do in the near future. What I mean by that is that there are so many folks who are newly veterans. You think of Remembrance Day, you think of remembering World War I, World War II, the Korean War, by and large, conflicts whose veterans are, at the very least, very aged or gone altogether. Certainly, we should think about them and think about the sacrifices that they made for us. But, I can't help but think about Simon. Simon is someone who I've known for many, many years. He had a really important place in terms of how I grew up. He's the father of one of my best friends in high school. And he's a veteran himself. And in Afghanistan, he was a victim of a roadside bomb attack. And he had a number of physical injuries and also the mental ones. He's dealing with PTSD to this day, and I know that there are others like him who deal with PTSD, who deal with difficulty adjusting to civilian life, who deal with addiction, homelessness, depression, anxiety. We need to do something for the people who have made those sacrifices, and for the people who haven't, quite frankly, because it doesn't take war to have problems, and we can, as a society, be doing more. And I just hope that when you do take a moment to observe that moment of silence on Saturday, or when you're looking down at your poppy, you consider remembrance as something that you do in the present tense, not just in the future. All right, I've done the soapbox thing enough today. This episode has been heavy on heavy topics, I guess. Let's get into some mail. Let's hear from you guys. Of course, you can always email me at johndulong@gmail.com. And as you're going to see, you might just make the air. The first email that I got was from my good friend Will. He says, "Hey John, just finished listening to your first episode. Want to applaud you on taking another stab at something creative. Creative outlet is something we all need. Speaking from my own experience, it can be tough to commit yourself to something for myriad reasons. I think you have a great voice." Thanks, Will. "And I appreciate that you're doing this with yourself in mind first. I look forward to hearing from you on a weekly basis." He goes on to say, "Since you made clear you're not too concerned with editing or voice production or the technical what-have-yous of podcasting, I won't give unsolicited advice. However, if you want any pointers on using Audacity or anything about the microphone and whatnot, please don't hesitate to ask me. I have a lot of working knowledge as opposed to technical know-how on this front, and since I podcast every week as well, hopefully I could steer you in the right direction if you want. Good to hear your voice again, Will." Well, Will, thank you so much. And let me give Will a quick shout out here as well. Will's podcast. If you're like me and you've got a lot of great nostalgia for PBS Kids show Arthur, take a look at the Elwood City Limits podcast. Will Young is one of the co-hosts on there, along with his friend Lucas Mancini. It's a really good, detailed breakdown of every episode of Arthur. And Will, yeah, I'm probably going to have to reach out to you one of these days, because I'm flying by the seat of my pants here, and I might as well get some feedback as I can get it. Second email is from Paul. "Hey John, great job last week. Keep up the good work. Comment or two on last week and a question for this week." Awesome. Comments: figs are awful, absolutely dreadful. Oh, and it's called IKEA Halifax. Move on.